Let's start the class with 3 ohms. Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So today we are starting a new text. The name of the text is Vichara Sagara. I will explain to you the meaning of Vichara, which means it is an inquiry into Atma. Vichara means inquiry. Sagara means ocean. That means it's an ocean of inquiry about Atma. The meaning of ocean here is it's a very large text consisting of almost 538 topics. That's why it is called as an ocean. So this text is in a format of topics. And I will explain to you a little bit more in detail as we go further and further. And this text is written by Sadhu Nischala Dasa. You see, in the olden days, there were some sadhus who were also teachers. But they were called as sadhus, they were not called as swamis. And this text is 150 years old. That means it is more recent. It is a part of our times. Our times means I mean, you can imagine the situation during that time, say 150 years ago, compared to say 2000 years ago during Shankara's time. So the style in which this is written is quite different compared to the Shankaracharya's period. This is also taught, this text is also taught to students, spiritual students, that means that people who are interested in the study of the Veda. The original text was written in Hindi, and this text is basically dealing with theory of knowledge. How does knowledge take place? What are the factors connected with knowledge? There is a science which discusses this, and that science is called as epistemology. So basically, it deals with, it focuses on what is knowledge and how does it take place in all of us. For example, I know physics knowledge. How does the physics knowledge happen? It will go into very, very big depths in the theory of knowledge. And through the theory of knowledge, it will try to reveal our own nature. We are all products of emotions and thoughts. The thoughts belong to the rational intellect, and emotions belong to the mind. So while we are studying any text or while leading our lives, we are always governed by these two factors. One is our own emotions, and the second is the ahamkara, which is dealing with the world, and that is basically in the form of thoughts. So many a times there is a tug of war which goes on between the mind and the intellect. That is why many people have a question: is Bhakti Yoga better than Jnana Yoga? In our conversation group, there was a very beautiful question by Pooja, who asked this question about Bhakti and Jnanam. So Bhakti is mainly dealing with the emotional part. I want to see God. I want to have a connection with that God. This is what is called as an emotional response to our inquiry. I want to feel that God. I want to see that God. I want to be one with Him. Whereas intellect wants to know God. What is what is the basic structure of that God? So intellect is always trying to probe, whereas bhakti always tries to feel. All of us, when we get into the path of this inquiry, there is no clear statement to say whether bhakti is correct or jnanam is correct. I would say it is always a combination of these two, because we are all products of a combination of the heart and the mind and the intellect. Throughout our life, all jivas are combinations. In some jivas, because of their purva vasanas, they may be predominantly bhakti oriented. It depends on our vasanas. Some jivas, some seekers, because of their purva janma vasanas, they may be more predominantly buddhi oriented. They may be only inquiry based. So straight away Ramana Maharishi goes into the topic of who am I? So that is a direct question by the intellect. So generally we say, the teachers of Vedanta say, like in the Bhagavad Gita, you try to develop the bhakti part first. That means the step 1 is bhakti and step 2 is jnana. Bhakti leads to jnanam and jnanam gives moksha. Of course, there are many schools of thought in India which says bhakti itself can give moksha, which is what Visishta Advaitins believe. Whereas Advaitins will say it is only jnanam which gives moksha. This is a very, very big topic in the Brahma Sutras. If you want to go to the depth of bhakti and jnanam and how there are many sutras in the Brahma Sutras where this topic is discussed. And this text, even though it was written in Hindi, it's an extremely popular text in the North India among all the Vedantic students. In the North India, this is extremely popular text. So if you go to the Google and you search for Vichara Sagara, you'll get plenty of commentaries and talks and in Hindi. Sometimes you might even get in English. There are many people who have given talks on this text. And about 100 years ago, Vasudeva Brahmendra Saraswati, he translated the text into Sanskrit. What we are studying is the Sanskrit version of Vasudeva Brahmendra, Swami Vasudeva Brahmendra Saraswati. Nishaladasa is the original author of this text. And this text consists of 7 tarangas. 7 tarangas means 7 chapters, 7 waves. Like it is already said that it is an ocean of inquiry about Atma. And it is broken up into 7 tarangas or 7 chapters. We'll study each chapter, what it contains, a little later. And each of these chapters are broken up into topics. And there are 538 topics. These topics are called as avartas or ripples. So ocean has got waves, which are chapters, and ripples, which are topics. Now, who is a candidate to study this text? Generally, it is recommended that a person who has studied the Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads, and if he finds that still there are some doubts which I'm not able to clear, then that student is an ideal student. Normally, Gita is recommended to learn more about sadhanas or disciplines to purify our mind, because our mind has got a lot of impurities by way of malam. And it has got the biggest malam impurity which all of us universally have is called as ignorance. We don't know our real nature. So to remove this ignorance, to remove this impurity, we study the Bhagavad Gita. Then what happens, once we study the Bhagavad Gita, our mind becomes quiet by Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. Karma Yoga is a discipline where I try to offer all the activities which I do during the whole day to Ishvara. And then whatever results I get, I take it as a prasada. This is a simple definition of Karma Yoga. Upasana Yoga means it is a discipline taught in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6. And it mainly consists of how to do meditation. Then Gita prepares the mind for Jnana Yoga. That means to do the inquiry about who am I. This is generally from the chapter 13 to chapter 18 of the Gita, the Jnana Yoga portion. Even though Gita is an essence of the Upanishads, one can study the Gita, but it is also recommended to study the Upanishads, which are the main source of knowledge for knowing our real nature. Upanishads primarily focus on Jnana Yoga. I'm trying to explain all this to see where we stand with reference to this particular text. So after finishing the preliminary text of Tattvabodha, Atmabodha, Drigdrishya Viveka, then we do Bhagavad Gita and then we do Upanishads. After doing all this, suppose there are some students who feel that they want to go a little bit further, more deeper. Because the subject of spiritual study is such that the purification process of the mind comes mainly from Shravanam, mainly from listening to scriptures. That is why people generally say that try and listen more and more And the more you listen, what happens is the more you get your mind purified. In each of these Upanishads, so those people who have done the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads, they find that they still lack some knowledge about themselves. For those people, this particular text is recommended. Normally they say you do Bhagavad Gita, then you do Upanishad, then you do Brahma Sutras. If you can do Brahma Sutras, very good. And after Brahma Sutras, you can get into Vichara Sagara. Now, generally, whenever we take a text, there are Mangala Slokas. Mangala Slokas means invocation to God. And they are generally divided into three types. One is a prayer to God. The second is, that means the first one is prayer to God. That means I seek the blessing of the God to learn about the Atma, Tattvam in me. And a very famous one, I will tell you which type of Upanishads. In the next slide, you will get a more detailed version of what are the Mangala Slokas in different Upanishads. So one of the very famous Mangala Sloka is Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunayama Devaha. Very, very popular one. And then there is another type which is Ashirvada Rupa Mangala Slokas. Like we say, Loka Samasta Sukhinau Bhavantu. These are Mangala Slokas which are for the general good. So you take an Ashirvada, it's an Ashirvada Rupa, that means you seek blessing from the higher principle, which is God. Then the last one is called as Vastu Nirdesha Rupa Mangala Slokas. That means invocation, which is basically a remembrance of the ultimate reality. Like, for example, we chant this Om Purnamada Purnamidam. That means it is about the reality itself. And here, Nishaladasa uses the third type, which is the remembrance, which is Vastu Nirdesha Rupa. That means it is not talking about trying to pray to God to get the values and disciplines to learn. It is not talking about control of the sense organs and mind, which is all prayer to God to get the control of sense organs so that we can learn the scriptures. It is not the Ashirvada Rupa. It is Vastu. That means straight away Nishaladasa focuses on the higher nature of our own personality. Here this chart gives the details about different Upanishads and what are the Mangala Slokas. For example, in Kaivalya Upanishads is Bhadram Karnevi Shrunayama Devaha. It gives you details of which Veda it is and what is the prayer. I mean, this is a very detailed chart, but what I want to focus here is just the Mangala Slokas. It has got the other details. You can just study it at your own leisure. But this particular focus here is on the Mangala Slokas. Say Mandoc Upanishad also, all the Atharvana Vedas, generally they will go for the same invocation prayer. Then we have, say, Prashna Upanishad, which belongs to Atharvana Veda also. That is also belongs to the same Bhadram Karnevi. Then the next type of Veda is called Krishna Yajur Veda, Kathopanishad and Taittiriya Upanishad. They belong to this Krishna Yajur Veda. Vedas are generally broken into four parts. Atharvana Veda, Yajur Veda, then Rig Veda and Sama Veda. Four Vedas are, these are the four types of Veda mantras. Among the Yajur Veda, there are two types. One is Shukla Yajur Veda, another is Krishna Yajur Veda. So Kathopanishad is Sahana Bhavatu, the prayer which we take for our study. Whenever we start the class, we do Sahana Bhavatu. That prayer is coming from Yajur Veda. And what type of Yajur Veda? It is Krishna Yajur Veda. And it is the prayer which is sung wherever they teach Kathopanishad or Taittiriya Upanishad. Generally, they sing this Sahana Bhavatu. Then in Shukla Yajur Veda, they do Purnamada. Ishavasya Upanishad deals with this Purnamada. This Purnamada is the one which talks about that the reality is Purnam. Purnam means it is full. It is complete in itself. It's a bliss, happiness. That's what is the nature of Atma. So this Purnamada, which we chant at the end of the our classes, is from Shukla Yajur Veda. These are just details. You don't need to remember too much of this. I'm just giving you some examples just to show where this text is taking or where it is describing the invocation prayer. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is also from Shukla Yajur Veda. The same Purnamada comes there. Chandogya Upanishad is from Sama Veda. There are two Upanishads, Kena Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishad, which deals with Apyayantu Mamangani, that is the invocation prayer. This is also asking the Lord, please give me the disciplines like the discipline of controlling the sense organs. Most of the Upanishad Shanti mantras, they ask for the values, the qualities which a student should get for the study of the Vedas. The Rig Veda also talks about Om Vam Manasi Pratishtita. And just one more Upanishad I have given here is belonging to Krishna Yajur Veda. It also talks about Purnamada. So Purnamada is in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and also in Shvetashvara Upanishad. Okay, now this is I've just given you one of the sample of the Mangala Slokas. Very popular Mangala Sloka, which is from Atharvana Veda. It says, Om Bhadram Karnevi Shrunayama Devaha Bhadram Pashe Makshabhir Yajatraha Stirairangaihi Stushtvagum. Most of you who have attended these classes of Upanishads with me, they know this mantra. Then Loka Samasta Sukhinau Bhavantu, this is the next one, which is also a Shanti mantra, where we generally say that let the whole world be happy. Here, the Mangala Sloka, which is taken up, I'm going to delve a little bit deeper into the Mangala Slokas in this class. And in the Mangala Sloka in this is, as I said, straight away Nishchaladasa talks about the reality. Very beautiful prayer. I will just chant once so that you can see how the prayer goes. Sukham nityam swaprakasham vyapakam nama rupayoho adhishthanam buddhya bodhyam buddher rishyestu nirmalam aparam sarva vedantam vedyam pratyak param mahaha tadevaham namartonyat titi me nishchita matihi. This is how the sloka goes. So this is the sloka which is generally chanted when we teach the Vichara Sagara. Every talk, every lecture, we just chant only this particular sloka. I'll give you a gist of the meaning here. Tad eva aham. Tad eva aham is in the fourth line. It says, I am that Brahman described in the 3 lines above. And what are the 3 lines above? Sukham nityam swaprakasham adhishthanam buddhya bodhyam nirmalam. I will explain the details of all these words after going through the gist. So basically it talks about all the descriptions of Brahman. Brahman means what? It is my own real nature. That's all. It is talking about me. And it says that Brahman aham asmi. That Brahman which is being described in this verse is basically none other than me, myself. Namattaha anyad. That means there is nothing different than that Brahman. Nothing at all. Because the whole world rises from Brahman. It resolves into Brahman. So, Nishchala Dasa says that I am that Brahman, and if there is a reality in this universe, it has to be me. Because I know that I exist. See, the things of the world, they don't know that they exist. They are inert. Whereas I am sentient being. Therefore, straight away he says, Brahman is sentiency. It is the consciousness principle. And everything else being inert, they can never know themselves. That means the whole anatma, that means not atma, is jadam, is inert. And then he goes on to say that there are only 2 things in creation. One is sentient chaitanyam, that means atma, I. And what is the other? It is basically jadam. And here he goes into binary format. You know, binary format means I have taught this binary format in about 2-3 classes from before this. I said there is only aham, which is atma, and anatma is the second, which is the jadam portion. That means atma is satyam, aham, I, the consciousness principle is ever there. There is no time when I am not there. In sleep I am there. In waking I am there. In dream I am there. What is not there? It's only the body is not there. Body is anyway, suppose the body goes off, it doesn't matter because even in sleep I am without my body. And that is what is called as Satyam. And what is the body or the mind and all that? That is all part of the Anatma Jadam. The unreal portion which is like an appearance. It comes and goes. So the entire matter universe comes and goes in the consciousness. The author says that if you want to be real, you have to be Atma. You cannot be the chair or a table because you know that you exist. You know, all of us, if I ask anyone who is listening to these talks, are you existing or not? Yes. Everybody will say, yes, I exist. And everybody will say, are you conscious or not? Yes, we are all conscious. So existence and consciousness is common to all human beings, all. Whether you live in America, whether you live in Japan, whether you live in Africa, whether you live in India, whether you live in Singapore. But we have not known much about this consciousness. That is the problem. We have taken the body as ourselves, which is a matter. It's only a matter principle. It comes and goes. It has got 2 conditions. One is manifest, another is unmanifest. Sleep is an unmanifest condition. And the manifest condition is the waking state. So here he says, instead of saying, I want to join you, the author says, better you join me because I am Brahman. So each one of us can say, I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. That is the first designation for all of us. We are conscious beings. Before birth of the body, we were conscious beings. After the death of the body, we will still be pure conscious beings. We were pure conscious beings, pure spiritual beings, and later also we will be the same spiritual being, exactly like how we experience in our deep sleep state. Only thing in deep sleep state is there is ignorance. That ignorance is going to be described in very, very big detail in this text. Mattaha anyat nasti. Brahman is not different from, Brahman is non-different from me. That means Brahman is me. That's all. So this prayer is talking and about my real nature. Iti me nishchita matihi. I will tell boldly without fear of God or anybody that aham brahmasmi. And what is God? God is the one who is the law, through his law of karma, he controls this entire universe. Like I have a small finite body, the whole universe is belongs to somebody. The whole universe, the body of the universe, that is what we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Vishwarupa Darshana of the Lord. There is one Lord, one principle who controls this entire universe. He is called Ishvara. I have this body, which is matter principle. Ishvara also is a sentient being having the world of matter of 5 elements as his body. And between us, what is common is that sentient conscious principle. Now, this knowledge is firm in me, that is called as Yana Nishtha. And all the Upanishads, they are only talking about this central teaching, which is Aham Brahma Asmi. This text also has the main aim of Shankaracharya was to teach Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. That means Brahman is Satyam. That means consciousness is the essence of this entire universe. Jagan Mithya. Jagan Mithya means the world, which includes my body and the mind, is Mithya. Mithya means it is an appearance. Jivo Brahmaiva Napara means Aham Brahmaiva Naparaha. I am that consciousness principle. We have seen this text, this particular verse in in Brahmajnanavalli, just before the initial, before taking up these texts of Naishkalmya Siddhi, Shrutisara Samudranam and Vivek Chudamani, I had taken Brahmajnanavalli. So this text is also a continuation of this series of talks which all talk about this one aim of the texts, which is Brahman or pure consciousness. In Taittiriya Upanishad also, it says that Aham Brahma Vrikshase Reriva, Kirtim Prishtim Gireriva. That means the whole universe is nothing but this one consciousness principle. So the author in this Mangala Sloka says, my firm knowledge is I am that consciousness principle in the Mangala Sloka itself. Very beautiful Mangala Sloka. This is, it's got a very deep meaning. I'm just giving you a gist of it right now, but they have a few pages of description in the original text. What is the commentary? I'll just go a little bit into the commentary of these words which have been used. Asya artaha tu, that means the meaning of the Mangala Sloka is I am that. Tad eva aham iti uktya. That means I am that consciousness principle is the meaning of this Mangala Sloka. And this Mangala Sloka is basically what? It is a Mahavakya Arthaha. That means it is an essence of what is taught in the Upanishads as Mahavakya. The meaning of Mahavakyam in the Upanishads is the same as what is the meaning in this text. And what is the meaning? Pratyak abhinna paramartha eva. That means I am non-different from Lord. Saswarupa, my own inner essence, that means the essence of all the Jivatmas, is Paramatma. What is Paramatma? Is the residence of all the Jivas. Why is he the residence? All of us, when we are sleeping, where do we reside? Where does the Ahamkara reside? It resides in the Paramatma. Ahamkara is the Jiva. The ego I is the Jiva. Morning to evening, we are just thinking all day long, feeling all day long about the world, interacting, and again, what happens? We go back to sleep and reside. The intellect goes back and resides in that Paramatma principle. It's a principle. Because we resolve into that higher nature, the Upanishads declare that my nature, real nature, is the same nature as Paramatma. Paramatma happens to be the very nature of me also. And when we compare the common nature between Jivatma and Paramatma, that common name is called as Atma, or it is also called as Brahman. And what are the descriptions of this Brahman? Number one, Sukham. Sukham means what? It is absolute bliss. What we experience as happiness in the world is relative. One day I am happy, another day maybe I'm happier, and the third day maybe I'm happiest. But these three grades of happy, happier, happiest are grades of the vrittis, or the thoughts of happiness. In these thoughts, the Atma gets reflected. That is what Taittiriya Upanishad says. My own bliss, which is absolute bliss, which has got no gradation, it gets reflected. That is what we experience in our relative waking state, or the dream state, or the sleep state. And these grades are also called as Priya Moda Pramoda. For those who have done the Taittiriya Upanishad, just to remember what is the gradation of happiness. So Sukham is the first word used to describe Atma. The next word is Nityam. Now all these words are interrelated. When you study this text, there are a few topics which will go a little bit more deeper, and it will tell you the connection between the Sukham and Nityam and Swaprakasham and the other characteristics. Very detailed explanation which the Nishalalasa gives. Swaprakash, so Nityam means what? It is beyond time. Very, very important feature of this Atma. And as I always say, that these are the things which we can use for contemplation. Ultimately, the goal where we have to arrive after the end of spiritual study is these features. I have to own up. I am not the ego I or the body or this sense organs, but I am that pure consciousness which is happiness as its nature, Swarupam. Nityam means beyond time. Beyond time means it can never be affected by any changes. That means it is nirvikaraha. Nirvikara means it is changeless. Time does not affect. Changeless means decayless. It is always existing, it is birthless, it is deathless. So all these are all adjectives to say one factor. That means it is beyond time. That means it is transcendental. These are all just words used, but they all mean one simple thing, which is Atma. Swaprakasham. Now, do we need any type of light or any other principle to know ourselves? No. Nothing is required to know ourselves except the knowledge that I am that self-evident consciousness. Self-evident means it is always self-illumined. It doesn't require a light. Na tatra suryo bhati. We have seen that prayer, Kathopanishad, Mandoc Upanishad. So it says that it is self-evident. All the time, I know that I am. So throughout our life, this light in us always is glowing. Whether we are sleeping, whether we are dreaming, whether we are in the waking condition, this inner glow, which is always self-evident, is that higher principle. This is what Nishala Dasa wants to reveal. Vyapakam means it is all pervading. That is why we say Tattvamasi. That means the consciousness in me and the consciousness in the entire universe, there is no division. There is only one all-pervading pure consciousness. Nama Rupayoho Adhishtanam. And this pure consciousness is the substratum. It is the substratum for the entire universe, which is experienced in the waking, dream, and sleep. So all three states have one thing common. And that common factor is called as Sat Chit Ananda. Pure existence, pure consciousness, and pure bliss. These are the three basic indicators for that higher principle. Buddhya avabhodaye buddhir drik cha bhavati. That means it is always a witness. Why do we say it's a witness of what? Is it a witness of the whole universe? No, it is a witness of the intellect, witness of the mind. This aspect we will be studying more detail in the last portion of our talk. May not be today, but some other day. But when I conclude this, there will be a lot of, there is a separate section which deals with this. So it is a witness of all the thoughts. So this is how this universe has been created by God. So he is present in the mind of all of us. The mind is like the waves, but in the bottom of that mind is the God principle, consciousness principle. That is why they say you look inward into your own self, go deeper beyond the mind, beyond the intellect, beyond the Anandamaya Kosha, to reach the subconscious level and to say, I am that pure Atma, which is the Adhishtanam, which is the basis on which the entire waking is coming up and the waking is resolving. That Adhishtanam, that substratum is consciousness. That substratum is that existence principle. That substratum is the Ananda or the bliss principle. Kathopanishad, a couple of Upanishads the author gives to say how we can realize this consciousness through the mind, because it is through the mind we need to cross and then say, I am that consciousness which illumines the mind. Kathopanishad, this verse is very famous. Naiva vacha na manasa praptum shakyo nam chakshusha. That means the speech cannot reveal, neither the mind can reveal, neither the eyes can reveal. How can it be realized otherwise? Who say that they exist? It means through the knowledge, it is only the scriptural knowledge we use as a source, as a pramana. It is not the mind, we have to cross the mind, but we have to use the mind to bring that scriptural knowledge into our mind. Taittiriya Upanishad also says, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidvan na vibheti tadachaneti. So that here what it means, see, all this the author himself gives in the text just to say, just to reveal that pure consciousness. The purpose of all this was only to say that this is what I'm going to teach. So here in Taittiriya Upanishad says the organs of speech and mind, they fail to objectify this light of consciousness. They come back. And this mantra is very famous, Natatra Surya Bhati. It says the sun doesn't shine there, the moon doesn't shine, neither do the stars, nor the lightning shines in Atma. But he says what? When he shines, everything shines after him. By his light, all this shine. Very, very powerful Kathopanishad mantra is one of the best mantras for the meditation on our own real nature. As the mind goes, see, these are the verses by which one knows how to deal with the human mind. The human mind is extremely powerful. As Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Balavat, that means it is very powerful. Chanchalam, it is very, very agitation, or it is always agitated or always rajasic. How do I control this? By knowing this Atma, which is a witness of the mind. So just a quick revision of the invocation mantra is, it is beyond the sun and the sunlight and the other lights. It is self-evident. The sense organs and mind are jyoti, that means they are illuminated by this consciousness. This jyoti which is illumining the mind, but mind cannot illumine that consciousness. Therefore, this consciousness is buddhya abhodhya. That means buddhi cannot reveal this consciousness. Buddhehe drik. Buddhehe drik means it is sakshi. It is the pure consciousness and nothing is there in it. There is no world, there is no sense organs, there is no mind. When you let these words run in your mind, definitely each one of us will reach Atma. This is a guarantee. This is a guarantee given by the Upanishads. So Brahman is a witness of the intellect. It sees, illumines and objectifies the intellect. We can see the intellect. We can see the mind as an object because I am the seer. The mind is the seen. It is a witness of everything. It is not only a witness of my own mind, my own emotions, my own thoughts, but through the sense organs, it witnesses the entire universe. It's always one thing you should remember, like in Drigdrishya Viveka class, I say, there is pure consciousness, then there is mind. So pure consciousness illumines the mind first. So the mind becomes a seer. After the mind becomes a seer, then the sense organs, the light of the mind goes to the sense organs, the 5 sense organs. From the 5 sense organs, the light goes to the sense objects. And what happens in the night? The light withdraws from the sense objects to the sense organs. The sense organs go to sleep. The light withdraws from the sense organs and put it into the mind. The mind goes to sleep. The mind withdraws and goes and rests in Atma. That is why we all experience in sleep state pure ignorance. I don't know anything. That is, all of us experience the same thing. Your sleep state, my sleep state, anybody else's sleep state around the whole globe. Only one universal experience. Number one, I don't know myself. Number two, I don't know the universe. This is how the creation has been built up. And that is what Vichara Sagara is trying to reveal. Keno Upanishad, another beautiful Upanishad, it says, Yan manasana manute yena chahur manomaham matam tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. That means what? It says that again, mind, use the mind to cross the mind. Therefore, we say that Brahman, you cannot know Brahman because the mind itself is not there. But at the same time, we use the mind. We don't neglect the mind completely. We use the mind as a pole vaulter uses the pole to cross to the other side. And what is the other side? The other side is Atma. That is my real nature. All these mantras, they help us to understand pure consciousness. So that one principle, Brahman or pure consciousness alone illumines the intellect, and through the intellect, they illumine the sense organs and then the whole universe. Universe is what? It is only 5 sense objects. Vedanta has a very beautiful way to present the universe. Everything which you experience in the universe consists of only 5 sense objects. That's all. What the eyes can see, what the ears can hear, what the skin can touch, what the tongue can taste, what the nose can smell. That's it. And all this, when it reaches the mind, it comes in the form of thoughts. Vrittis. You try to think of anything else. Emotions is what? It is again vritti. So beyond this, there is nothing. There is no universe apart from these 5. So what the signs say as energy, we call in Vedanta vritti. And then beyond this vritti is this light. That is where Vedanta scores 1 step ahead of science. There is a witness principle, there's a consciousness principle, there is an existence principle, which never dies, which is beyond this, which is beyond time. So the intellect, it does not reveal Brahman, reveal this consciousness, is the conclusion of the invocation mantra. It describes what my reality, my higher nature is, and it also says my mind cannot reveal that because the mind itself is revealed by that pure consciousness. Okay, so that is the conclusion of the invocation mantra. Next, we will go into the different chapters. Just a quick rundown, like I always do with my classes for summary. Vichara Sagara with 538 topics broken up into 7 chapters. Chapter 1, 2, and 3 are the introduction chapters. He has devoted, Ishchaladasa has devoted 3 full chapters for only introduction. You can imagine I will tell you a little bit about the introduction after this slide. So chapter 4, 5, 6 are the main portion of the teaching, which consists of 342 topics. And the fourth chapter, I will give how Nischala Dasa divides this entire Vichara Sagara is presented in this bird's eye view chart. The fourth chapter, so the first three chapters are basically talks about why this text should be studied and who is the beneficiary of this text and so on. I'll explain to you a little bit later. Now, the main teaching is broken up into 3 chapters. One is for the Uttama Adhikari. That means a person, suppose he thinks that I am already a candidate who knows the Bhagavad Gita, who knows the Upanishads, who knows this spiritual principle in me. This is called as Uttama Adhikari. In simple terms, it means the person who has got sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. Tathoboda, if you remember, the 4 Ds. I know what is real, unreal. That means I have the Viveka Shakti, discrimination. Then disciplines. I have dispassion. The second is Vairagya, dispassion. The third is discipline. All the disciplines of the control of the sense organs, control of the mind, titiksha, shraddha, faith. All this I have. These are all the qualities of the Uttama Adhikari. That means a person who's fit for the study. Straight away, Aham Brahma Asmi can be told to such a person. The name given to the student, this is also, this text is presented in the form of question and answer. Like all Upanishad, there are several questions asked by the student. There are 3 students in this text. One is called as Tattva Drishti. Tattva Drishti means he has a vision of Tattva. He has a vision of his consciousness. He wants to go and ask the teacher, I want to know what is this, why we say Brahman is Satyam and why we say Jagan is Mithya. And why do we say that I am that Brahman? 3 questions is what Tattva Drishti has. So most of us must be feeling that we are like Tattva Drishti only. So this goes on for 104 topics. And at the end of this chapter 4, the intelligent student, he withdraws because he has understood his real self. Then chapter 5 is for Madhyama Adhikari. Madhyama Adhikari means what? He is confused. He has heard so many texts, so many things. Most of us are like this only, Madhyama Adhikari. And we have read so many things about Atma. We have gone through the YouTube, one lecture here, one lecture there, one Swamiji here, another Swamiji, and I have read so many different types of texts, but I am not able to fix my mind on what is the central theme of this entire Upanishads or the Gita. No, I mean, see, that's why we say always go step by step. If you follow the schedule which I am now following, where we are discussing the preliminary text, then we will do the Gita, then we do the Upanishads, and then we do this text in detail. So, Madhyama Adhikari is one who needs to know, who thinks that the world is real. And he needs some meditation. He is taught a meditation in the 5th chapter. We will see the details of the 5th chapter. In my talk, I'll be doing is, I'll be discussing, I made my presentation. We'll be studying chapter 1, 2, 3 in very, very briefly. Chapter 4, we will do in great detail. Chapter 5, a little bit of detail. Chapter 6 and chapter 7 is just a conclusion. I will not be, it will just be 3 lines each. So my focus is on chapter 4, which is for the Uttama Adhikari. That is my real focus of presentation, the entire Vichara Sagara. I would like to present mainly from the Tattva Drishti point of view. So Madhyam Drishti is for 91 topics are there, and then the Mandha, the third Adhikari, now you know very well. Mandha Adhikari is the one, his name is called, so the Madhyam Adhikari, his name is called Adrishti. Adrishti means he doesn't have the vision of consciousness. He only has the vision of the world. So he is taught by Nischala Dasa, the teacher. And in all these students' question, this text, again like Naishkarmya Siddhi and Shrutisara Samudranam, which also focus on the Brahma Satyam Jaganmithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Paraha, the same topic is discussed in all the 3 texts. In this text also, there's a lot of questions, lot of answers. The methodology used by the teacher is, he will give the Shruti Vakyams, he will give the logic, and then he will say, you check your Anubhava, and then see whether all these 3 points out to the spiritual essence called as Atma. So in the third type is an inferior student. Inferior student means what? His mind is not so developed. Why his mind is not developed? Because he is Tarka Drishti. Tarka Drishti means what? Always looking for reasoning, logic. All the time looking at logic. How is this possible? How is this possible? Tell me, if this is the cause of the universe and the universe is effect, where is the cause? Tell me, show me in front. So he is always looking at Tarka. Lot of question and answer in Tarka Drishti. That's why Nischala Dasa spends 147 topics on the last one. This is a broad guideline how the structure of the text is. I'll go straight now into the different chapters from chapter 1 to chapter 7. Chapter 1 is talking about the essence of chapter 1 and chapter 2 are 4 factors. Number 1, Adhikari. Number 2, Prayojanam. Number 3, Vishaya. Number 4, Sambandha. I have given the introduction of this in my previous talks also. This 4 is called as Anubandha Chatushtaya. That means the factors which any Shastra means scripture. Whether it is, so the scripture has to answer these 4 questions. These 4 elements of the text must be clear. Who is the Adhikari? Who is the candidate? Who is the target audience for this text? So Nischala Dasa very clearly identifies 3 candidates. Tattva Drishti, Adrishti and Tarka Drishti. Become familiar with the names. Once you know the meanings, it is very clear. So the target audience is the student, 3 types of students. 3 categories, 3 levels of students. Very beautifully, they have structured this text very, very nicely so that we can see how the questions, they differ from one chapter to another chapter until the last chapter. Prayojanam means what is the benefit of this? Does this studying this chapter give any benefit? The benefit is we get rid of sorrow. There is no other way, according to Upanishads, which will clear our sorrow except the study of Upanishads. Except by knowing my real nature as Atma, there cannot be any other method in the universe to clear my sorrow. By the end of this Vichara Sagara, this particular benefit will be very clear. Vishaya. Vishaya means what is the subject matter? The subject matter is Brahman or Atma. Sambandha. Sambandha means what is the connection? Connection between a relationship between the Atma and the subject matter. The subject and the connection between the Vishaya and the Adhikari. So if I study this text, the connection is I will get rid of the sorrow. That is what is the Sambandha. If one is not there, one of the four is not there, then Shastra cannot be written. That means teaching is not possible. So what the general discussion in this is, there is a general discussion in the first chapter. And there is a specific discussion about these four in the second chapter. The second chapter and the first chapter, they contain the same Adhikari, Prayojanam, Vishaya and Sambandha. In short, I have called it CBSC. C stands for candidate, B stands for benefit, S stands for subject, C stands for connection. CBSC. At any time you want to study a text, immediately this CBSC should come into your mind, and you must understand, because when you understand this CBSC, what happens is, I also become very clear. I ask a question to myself, am I a right candidate for this? Will I get the benefit? Is the teaching about Atma? Is there any connection between that teaching and me? If these four questions are very clear, then what happens is I will proceed to study. Generally speaking, all the other opponents, that means the other mathams, other philosophers, they generally attack the four. They say this Vedanta doesn't have, there is no Adhikari for this, there is no Prayojana, there is no Vishaya, there is no Sambandha. This is what is taken up in the Brahma Sutras. Generally, all the Brahma Sutra means what? It is a text which will deal with all the philosophers and how they attack Vedanta, how they attack Advaitam, how they attack this teaching. Just to give you a little bit detail about the first chapter, the first chapter says that there are three types of Shravana. Shravana means listening. What are the three types? It says there is one type of learning which is called as Tatparya Rupa Shravana. Tatparya means what? It is what is the central theme of the Vedas. So this is one type of teaching, and that Shravanam, that listening, comes when we listen to the Upanishads. The central theme of the Upanishads is Atma. Again and again in different, that's why in my meditation sessions, I have introduced different mantras from different Upanishads. If you make a collection of all my meditation session mantras, you will get a garland of Atma. So the Tatparya Nirnaya Rupa Shravanam, that is one type. That means I must know what is the central theme of my study. Then the second type of Shravanam, which I do, is basically Tat Padartha Rupa. Tat Padartha means what? It belongs to the Tat Padartha means that I want to learn about that Ishvara. What is the nature of Paramatma? What is my nature? What is Tat and Tvam Padartha Nirnaya? That means I learn more about my lower nature and my higher nature. the Lord's lower nature, which is the matter principle, and the Lord's higher nature. When I learn more about this, and I know how can I differentiate between the two, that Shravanam is called as Atma Anatma Viveka. That means I try to understand, I arrive at the core of my personality, I arrive at the core of the Lord's personality, and then I go to the next stage. How do I do to the core of my personality? There are different prakriyas, there are different methods. Drik Drishya Viveka, that is the text we are doing on Saturday. Another method is Avastatraya Viveka, that means Mandoc Upanishad. I try to come to know what is my nature from analyzing the three states of consciousness. Panchakosha Viveka, that means I analyze all the personalities, all the dresses which I wear in different personalities. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, these are all dresses. And then I arrive at what is my core, where I don't wear any dress. My dresses are all taken out. I am that pure Atma. This type of a listening which we do is called as Tat Padartha Rupa Shravana. Generally, it is done as Adhyaropa and Apavada. Adhyaropa means what? I first superimpose all the 5 koshas into this Atma. And then slowly, that is called as Adhyaropa, that means superimposition. Apavada means what? I slowly negate one by one. I remove one of the koshas, second kosha, third, and then I arrive at the core. Then the last one is Mahavakya Vichara. This is the third type of listening. These are all very, very important, because if you don't do this type of listening of the scriptures, you will not be able to come to the finer principle, which is pure consciousness. Mahavakya Vichara listening means I analyze the Mahavakya of the Upanishads. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Prajnanam Brahma, I am Atma Brahma. These are all scriptural statements which describe the oneness between the Jiva and Paramatma. So that third type of listening is called as Mahavakya Vichara. That is what is the focus of Nishaladasa. Straight away he goes and says, come on, let me teach you what is that oneness. How can I realize this pure consciousness as myself? Very, very beautiful position, way he goes about the subject matter. When you study this text, what really happens is, many of you have asked me this question. Please tell us something, how different is this text? What happens is, we have studied, we know a little bit about Atma, but we are not able to go to the finer aspects of it. Our mind needs to clear a little bit more of the doubts. And this text, with 538 topics, it clears our doubts. So many doubts are cleared one by one, but it takes a long time. It takes a long time. There is Swami Paramatmananda who has been teaching this text for 10 years. To students. 10 years this text is continuing. Can you imagine? Every week a session, and for 10 years. Tremendous patience is required to learn this text. And he is teaching this for the second time. That means he has taken this text for the first one time, 7 years, 8 years. Another time, 10 years. And is still yet to finish this. Chapter 7 is going on now. So what I'm saying is that this text it takes a lot of patience to study this text, because it's got very, very deep meaning. But it's written in beautiful Sanskrit, it can be easily, I mean, people who know the Sanskrit, even if you know a little bit of Sanskrit, that should be enough. You will be able to get the meanings of the words. Even if you don't know Sanskrit, doesn't matter. You just listen, read, go into the depth, but please do it only after you have done Upanishads. If you have not done Upanishads, don't attempt this text at all. Okay, so what do we get out of these three? The first and the second Shravanam. The first is the first Shravanam helps us to understand or get the knowledge of Atma. The second Shravanam gives us tells us how to remove our doubts between who am I, who is God. And then we will have these discussions on Dvaitam, Advaitam, Visishta Advaitam. That means whether the whole universe consists of Dvaitam. That means, is there a world separate than me? That is one type of vision. I am there and the world is there. This is what Dvaitam, this is what is duality. The second vision is what? There is Visishta Advaitam. That means what? There is God who is there and I am a part of God. I am not full, but I am only a part. I become full by joining God. This is called as Visishta Advaitam. God is with attributes. I am with attributes. Both have got attributes. But my attribute is what? I am a part of God. This is called as Visishta Advaitam. The third vision is what about the world? There is only one consciousness principle. That's it. The world is nothing but one reality, which is called as Advaita, which is what Shankaracharya is famous for. All what we are learning, whatever I am teaching is called as Advaitam. Recently, there was a question which was asked to explain this particular three words: Dvaitam, Advaitam, Visishta Advaitam. And what Shankaracharya says is, if only through Advaitam your sorrow can go. How this world is an appearance, I have I'm trying to write another portion of this Vichara Sagara. I don't know whether I can complete it. I'm trying to make a presentation to say how the world is taken as appearance. Let's see. So Nidithasanam is the third process by which I clear the doubts. Viparita Bhavana. Nivritti. That means I clear my doubts about myself. Instead of saying I am the body, I am the mind, I learn to say I am Atma. I repeat again and again in the meditation. Please bring a thought in meditation and say, I am that pure consciousness. This vritti illumines my real nature. This is called as Akhandakara vritti. Akhandakara means divisionless, pure consciousness. It reveals. Because this is a central theme. How do I remove this ego I? This ego I cannot go by any other method except Mahavakya Vichara. This is what Saddarshanam Ramana Maharishi will teach us when we do this Saddarshanam after this Vichara Sagara. So the first chapter was about general inquiry, Anubandha Samanya Ropa Nirupanam of basically the four factors. So second chapter is Visesha Ropanam. That means some special factors are taken for those Adhikari, for the Prayojanam, for the Vishaya and Sambandha. So a little bit more detail is there in the second chapter. Both this chapter only deal with whether Vichara Sagara text should be written or not. So the author himself takes the position of opponent and he throws all the questions and he himself he answers. So there will be questions saying that there is no Adhikari. Nishaladasa will say, yes, there is an Adhikari. Then he will bring a question and say there is no prayojanam for writing this text because who has ever seen Brahman? So there is no experience of it. Therefore, you can't. There is no prayojanam. So in 69 topics, and total in first 121 topics or first 3 chapters, he only goes about the 4 factors and what is who is a Shishya, who is a Guru. So Vedanta is worth studying in spite of the attack on Anubandha Chatushtayam by Tarka, Mimamsa, Visishta Advaitam and Dvaitam. That means in spite of all the criticisms of the other opponents, there is a purpose of writing this text. That is what is said in the first 2 chapters. 3rd chapter, it's only a small chapter of 12 topics. And how should I study? Okay, the student knows that okay, these 4 factors are there. Therefore, now I must begin my class. I must start studying. So in the 3rd chapter, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, if you want to study about the self, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. That means go to a teacher, go to a wise person who will instruct you about this knowledge. Upadeshanti te jnanam jnanena tattvadarshinaha. And who is a guru? What is the lakshanam? What are the indicators? What are the characteristics of a teacher? What are the characteristics of a student? Then how does one serve the guru? Why do you serve the guru? Because he then learns to bring down his ego. When he brings down the ego, what happens? The student develops the capacity to receive the knowledge, which is called as Jnana Yogyata Prapti. And then the guru will teach him. That is called as Jnana Prapti, gaining the knowledge. Even Vishnu Puranams, even the ancient texts like Vishnu Puranam, they deal with Vedantic work. So the same Atma, same Brahman is also the essence of all the Puranas, but then they present it in different way. Just to talk about Bhakti, we talked about Bhakti a little while ago. There are 9 forms of Bhakti, Navavidha Bhakti. Shravanam means listening. Through Bhakti, you listen about the Lord, about Jiva, about the Creator. Second is Kirtanam. Kirtanam means you sing the Lord's glories. Smaranam means memory. I think more about that Lord. These are the 9 ways in which you can develop bhakti towards the Creator. So when you develop this attitude of knowing the Creator, loving the Creator, this is one. I said there are 2 ways. One is you have to tame your mind, and the second is get the knowledge. Getting the knowledge is Jnana Prapti. Taming the mind is Jnana Yogyata Prapti. Pada Sevanam means doing Pada Puja. These are all Archanam. Archanam means putting flowers. Vandanam, speaking to others about the Lord. But Dasya means, that means you treat the Lord like a friend. Sakyam is friend. Dasyam is devotee. You are a devotee, and he is the worshipped. Atmanivedanam, that means you bring that Lord in your heart. These are the different forms of bhakti. And then what happens is, what is the jnanam which is taught, and how does the sorrow go? There are just a small essence is brought up in these two. What is the knowledge which is gained, which is described in the Mandokya Upanishad? The 4 messages of the Mandokya Upanishad. Very important 4 messages which deal with the central theme of jnana. In order to learn about me, one thing is existence of the Jagrat Prapancha is to be negated. That means I negate the entire universe to know myself or to know what is the higher principle. Then second thing is origination. That means the entire birth, creation theory, creation of the entire Prapancha, this whole creation has to be negated to know. It's only negation means it is in the mind. It's intellectually I have to negate the entire universe to reach Atma. Third principle is I must accept that the world is an appearance in consciousness. It has to be accepted. It is, when I say it is appearance, what happens then? It has got, indirectly what I'm saying is it has got borrowed existence. And who is the one which gives the existence to it? I, the pure Atma. And how does this entire world come about? It comes about because I am ignorant about this Atma. If I know Atma, what will happen? I will be always eternally abiding in that pure consciousness. World will still come and go. And the same 4 principles we have to apply to our sorrow also. We say the existence of sorrow has to be negated. The origination of sorrow has to be negated. The appearance of sorrow in my mind has to be negated. And then what I say, the cause of sorrow is nothing but ignorance about my higher nature. Like the waker doesn't know his higher nature is Atma, the dreamer doesn't know his higher nature is the waker. The guru prepares the ground for the study. If there is no candidate or benefit, or then the Sanskrit departments in different universities, they will be closed. But they are all thriving. So validity of relevance of this text is established in chapter 1 and 2. The who is a guru, who is a shishya is introduced in chapter 3. Guru is Shrotriya. Shrotriya means he knows the scriptures well. He knows the Upanishads inside out. What are the essence of the Upanishad? It is there in his mind. And he is what? He is Brahmanishta. Brahmanishta means he knows that he is that ultimate reality. And the world comes and goes. Sishya Lakshanam, what is the nature? What is the nature of the? What is the nature of the student? He is sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. That means he has got the 4 Ds. Just like the sun absorbs the pure water from the ocean and it leaves the salt back, the sun gives out ultimately rain back to the universe, to the world. Similarly, the guru, he absorbs the vakyams, he absorbs the essence of the vakyams from the Vedanta, from the ocean of this scriptures. And then, like the rain, is compared to Advaita Jnanam, this non-dual reality. He drops the Visishta Advaitam, he drops the duality, and then he showers the non-dual Atma. For whom? For a thirsty disciple. This is how Vichara Sagara author Nishala Dasa sums up the first 3 chapters. Next week, we are going to study the 4th chapter in detail because this is our central portion of our Vichara Sagara presentation. The 6th and 7th, we don't have much to discuss. 4 and 5, we will discuss. Next week, we'll start with this chart of the 4th Taranga, which means it is the wave. And this is where the highest Uttama Adhikari will come, and then we'll see what are the type of questions he asks. There will be some portions which we may not be able to understand, but don't worry. You just listen, and then whatever you can grasp, you grasp. This is just this session is only to get the highlights of this particular text. Only when you do the text in detail, you'll understand the whole subject matter in depth. With this, I close today's session, and we will chant the Purnamada. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Does anybody have any questions on today's presentation? I'll see the chat if there's anything. There's one message in the chat. Thanks for the wonderful session. Okay, that's from Vijaya. Okay. Anybody has any questions on this? Whatever is presented today?
Chitra, yeah.
Yeah, Chitra.
Yeah, the Anubandha word, Anubandha
Chatushtaya, yes.
You said is equal to CBSE.
Yeah.
But the word Anubandha itself means what?
Anubandha means factors.
Factors, okay.
Yeah. What are the factors which are responsible for any Shastra? Suppose you take Mimamsa Shastra, suppose you take any scriptural study. What are the factors before writing a Shastra, before writing a text, for example, what are the factors an author should take into consideration?
Okay, Anubandha
means factors. And Chatushtaya means 4.
4, okay.
So what are the 4 factors Vichara Sagara author has to consider before writing this text?
Right.
So what the opponent, so what he brings in these 3 chapters, he says that there is no, for example, he says there is no benefit at all. Why are you writing this chapter? Because there is no benefit of learning about Brahman, learning about. So these are the questions which Nishala Dasa takes up into very, very big detail. I mean, you will get so lost in it. I'm not going to stress too much on it because from what I feel, if they may not be really required for our type of study because we are not so much bothered about the text, whether it gives the knowledge, whether it because we believe yes, there is belief that this text will be useful to us. Right. So if I am studying Vichara Sagara, I would straight away go to chapter 4 and start.
Okay.
So and because the text is so huge and it takes so much time, I would I would study just like I said, okay, glimpses of the first three chapters and then go straight to chapter 4.
Right.
Many of us will feel that chapter 4, for example, when I studied chapter 4, I thought I will stop after chapter 4.
Okay.
Because I said, okay, I know I am a Uttama Adhikari, so why should I go to the 5th chapter at all? I will stop immediately after chapter 4. But that doesn't happen because it is quite difficult subject. So then you go to the 5th chapter. You see, the beauty of this text is that while you're studying the text, a lot of simple questions, they get answered. That is the beauty. It is not that you get suddenly one illumination and things will be very bright after that. But it is a slow process of the mind absorbing the teaching, and you will find that for sure after this 3 chapters of learning, it will take 2-3 years, I'm telling you, for one to complete this type of study.
Right.
But it will give you the benefit, it will give you the fulfillment. And I can say for sure that the realization part of which most of us after 20 years of study, we feel that I have still not realized that nature, which Upanishad or the Gita is trying to teach me. In my own belief, I strongly believe that after the study of Gita and Upanishad, one straight away must learn this text.
Right.
And that's the reason I want to teach this text in depth, but I will it's a very, I've written almost 2,000 pages of notes for this. It's available in the website, but I need to condense those notes into into a session format because it takes time. And
Really vast.
Very vast, very vast. 2,000 pages. Actually, the 7 chapters will take 4,000 pages.
Oh my God. Okay.
Now, I'm going to ask somebody who can help me to condense them, and slowly maybe 1 or 2 students who are interested in this type of long-term study, they can get in touch with me, and then maybe after some time we can, start presenting these essence of these 4 chapters. So chapter 4, 5, 6, 7 can be, my plan is to teach one day, but I don't know when because it's a tremendous amount of effort required.
It is.
And maybe if somebody is interested to work with me and who has got the time, who has got the knowledge of the computer to correct the notes, then you can approach me. We will try as a project and see whether it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Chitra, I think I have to read the whole. I have to revise your whole lecture one more time because the Mahavakya coming in the middle.
Yeah.
And I keep wondering why is it brought up in the middle. So tomorrow I think I'll have to revise.
No problem. You can ask me questions in the next week because or if you have, we will be having a session next week on the same topic. My plan is to take maybe 1 or 2 more lectures on this Vichara Sagara.
Okay.
I will complete in 2 lectures the balance presentations, and then we will be doing Saddarshanam.
Okay. I will come back to you later.
Yeah, please come back. So if you have questions, you can just send me a WhatsApp message, and then next week I can answer them.
Right.
But
okay.
Mahavakya, Chitra, basically, after the study of Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads, you must focus study on the Mahavakya Vichara.
Right.
It is important because after learning the Upanishads and learning, what I'm saying is, how do you learn the Mahavakya Vichara is, that is why we study these type of advanced texts. And the easier one to study is Shruti Sara Samudranam. That is, that if you go through my notes properly, there is two books, you can print it out. You will get some idea of Mahavakya Vichara in Shruti Sara.
Right.
Naishkirima Siddhi is a very, very difficult because it's huge again. So my suggestion will be just do Shrutisara and then learn the Upanishadic portions where the Mahavakya is discussed.
Okay.
Like for example, Tattvamasi. There are 10, there are about 18, 40 or 18 verses in Chandogya Upanishad.
Right.
So go to the 6th chapter and straight away learn the Mahavakya portion. Go to
Right.
Brihadaneka Upanishad, learn the Mahavakya portion. Go to the Mandukya Upanishad and learn the Mahavakya portion. And Aitreya Upanishad, learn the Mahavakya portion. Go into the depth of that study. And
Right.
then you come to this text and then you see how this helps you to clear up a lot of those. We'll try and see how you will see the impact of the clearance of some doubts in the next session and the following session. Some
Okay.
small doubts you will find, yes, I think now I'm getting a little bit more clarity.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Narayana's world is difficult. Okay, what he is saying is it's difficult to get a guru. How get Adhikari to study Vedanta? Okay, see, getting a guru, actually what the Shastra says is it just happens. The guru will find you. If you are ready and you're a ripe student, you will get a guru right in front of you. So don't worry about being difficult and all that. You keep trying you to study, polish yourself. And the scriptures tell us this, that when a candidate is ready, the guru will stand in front of him and he will definitely find the guru. This is a promise of the scriptures. So don't worry about it. My suggestion is just make the effort and you will ultimately find somebody who will teach you the real truth.
It's like a tattva, Guru Tattva.
Yeah, Guru Tattva, yes. Any other questions from anybody else?
Jagaji,
Bolo, Bobhai.
in the earlier notes, there's a phrase that says Brahma can't be known through words or intellect.
Yes.
Then how we can know?
That's a good question. Very good question. You are a very, very deep thinker. Okay, how we can know if the mind cannot reach, the speech cannot reach? What the scriptures tell us is use the scripture as like you use your eyes. With your eyes, you see the whole world. So when the scripture tells you that you are pure consciousness, pure spiritual being, and it says that you are not the body, and it says you are not the mind, but you are a pure being, you accept the scriptures and you go forward. And then you say, okay, when you use the scripture as the eye, like you use your eye, when you use the scripture and use whatever Bhagavan is talking in the Bhagavad Gita and says that you are that pure being, like you are in sleep. In sleep, for example, you're not the body, you're not the mind, because mind is not there. Mind is an unmanifest condition, but you are there. But in what form are you there? You are there without the body. You are there without the mind. And you are also there where there is no universe. There is no world. But the only thing is that you have that ignorance. Ignorance means I don't know who I am. So the only way to know is you take Bhagavan's words and say, when Bhagavan says that in sleep you are with me, Bhagavan clearly says this in Upanishads, Prashna Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Brihadaneka Upanishad. Clearly Bhagavan says that you are with me in your sleep state. Now you think, what is your nature? First you accept the fact that I am not alone in this universe. I am always with Bhagavan. Bhagavan is there in me. I have to only realize him, that's all. And Bhagavan will teach you how this body and mind can be dropped. So use the scripture, use the words of Bhagavan in the words, through the words only you will know your nature. It is not through your mind, it is the through, use this like the eye. Like your, like you use an instrument. For example, you use a microscope to see small things. You look to use it to make it big so that you can see. So similarly, use the Shastric words. That is why we have to understand what is that their Shastra is talking about me. And I remove all the other dresses which I am wearing. That means I remove the body as a dress. I remove the mind as a dress. And then I say, okay, what is the pure nature of mind? It is only consciousness, that's all. So this is the way to understand. Anybody else?
But,
yeah.
But how do we get the word from the creator or Brahma or what to us?
Yeah, the words is basically the Mahavakya. Mahavakya means what? It says that Tat Tvam Asi, you are that. So what do you mean by you? What do you mean by that? You should be very clear. So we have to learn more about us and more about Bhagavan, and then later on we will come to know that there is a common element between me and Bhagavan. And that common element is nothing but what I experience in my sleep state. It is not the ignorance. You have to drop that ignorance. Because I know I'm trying to learn how to drop that ignorance through the study. So
is it this one Mahavakya Vichara is it the self-realization, the one?
Yeah, correct. It is self-realization. Mahavakya Vichara means there are some sentences which are there in the Bhagavad Gita. For example, in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that I am there in you. All of you are in me. Okay, he says that you are the pure consciousness, Kshetraknya. You are the observing principle. So we have to learn about this nature of mind through the Bhagavad Gita. We have to study the Gita a little bit more deeper. So once we learn the Gita a little bit more deeper, what will happen is I will know that I am that pure consciousness. Yeah, Shama is saying this text sounds a great text to study, and as you promised before, it appears very systematic, logical, rational analysis. I'm beginning to see the light within time. Okay. Okay, that's right, Shama, you are right. And this is a very good explanation of what this text is about. Anybody else?
No, not. I think. Thank you. That's all. I think.
Yeah, thank you, Bhava.
Thanks, Shaikaji. Yeah.
So we will hopefully get out of this mind entanglement, you know,
yes,
because
that's correct. The mind entanglement, yes.
Yeah,
right.
this is where the trap is. You know, you keep thinking, goodness, the mind itself, because that's the medium which you're using. So it's really tricky, very tricky.
Yeah. So I
have
to.
Somebody's done the work.
Yes. See, I am suppose you're looking through the microscope. The seer is what they are trying to focus on. The seer is the consciousness.
Yeah.
And the microscope is an instrument.
Yeah.
So same way, mind is an instrument, and I am the seer in the mind.
So one has to keep reminding to the mind and saying, mind, look, you better shut up because you're only the mind.
Yes, that's correct.
I am directing you to see
correct.
in a particular, just answer me only that.
Yes.
And so it's quite fascinating, very fascinating.
Yes, absolutely fascinating topic. You know, this whole text, this whole matter of consciousness is such a deep subject. And you see, what they will teach you in this text is that the mind is right at the top. So all our waking state is all at the conscious level at the top of the ocean.
Yes.
What happens is when you go to dream state, it goes say 2,000 feet below the sea.
Yes.
So you are in the dream state means there is no more sense organs. Like in the top of the ocean, you will find the sense organs are active. Your prarabdha karma is active. Your mind is active. They are all interacting in the top of the ocean as waves. Then when you drop to the subtle level, it is only the mind which is working. That is what you see in the dream.
Yeah.
Then you go another 2,000 feet below. That is your karma shariram.
Yeah.
That karma shariram is pure ignorance.
Yeah.
And then you say that the one who is watching the karana shariram, that ignorance is consciousness.
Yeah.
So this is how deep you have to go. And slowly, that is what they describe in Taittiriya Upanishad, remove the top Annamaya Kosha, then Pranamaya Kosha, then the Manomaya Kosha, then the Vijnanamaya Kosha, then the Anandamaya Kosha. Then finally you say, I am not even the Anandamaya Kosha, which is there in sleep state, but I am the observing principle. I am the witness of that state of mind. It is not anybody else's.
Yes.
It is nothing. It is my own mind. My own mind, it can go into the depth of this by the knowledge of Atma.
Yep.
And this, the more I learn to go deeper and deeper into my own mind, and then use the Shastra, then use the scriptural Mahavakya, and says Tattvamasi. This is what I am.
Yeah. So you've got the full, what you're running right now? You are actually a diving coach, How do you dive under the ocean? So it's really, to me, sounding all very adventurous, actually. I sometimes thinking I shouldn't get too excited because it seems like a big adventure, we're going deep down.
You see, people have gone to the moon, and they think that is the end of the world, but that is there is a much more deeper you can go than you can go to the farthest point in the universe.
Yeah, no, I've always felt that why do people do that? Just to go into the mind is the biggest journey.
Yeah, it's the biggest journey anybody can undertake, and that is what the rishis were able to do it, and they went through that, and then they discovered this pearl of the wisdom called as Atma.
Yeah, fantastic. Suddenly I discovered Rohit has taken his avaranam off. He is now visible.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Shekhar.
So we all need a life jacket, huh? Real life jacket.
Life jacket, yes. But he's given the outline, So we've already got that life jacket.
So
I'm quite happy.
Shekharji is building up all of us to have our independent
absolutely.
life jacket.
I really feel I am a diver now.
So if we can accept that external world is a big delusion, 95% of the job is done.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Yes.
And he first started with the Stuti Shats, I still find it difficult, Samudranam. That also was one kind of a Samudram.
Yes.
And this is another, this was
a ultimate text. I'm telling you, there is no other text which is as advanced a text in Vedanta like this Vichara Sagara. There is no other text.
Yeah.
Absolutely no other text. And the more you study this one text, the more you will go deeper, and I have 100% confidence that anybody who studies this text will know Atma. Anybody. But
not by ourselves. I have to disagree there.
Yeah, not
you
by
need
yourself.
somebody.
No. You need a guide.
You need somebody to.
You need somebody to, as a coach, to go through this. Yes, but you have to be ready first to spend that effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once you say yes, you are ready, then the coach will be there right in front of you.
I wish you were charging us, because then we'd be a bit more serious.
Okay. You're giving me ideas. Maybe I should charge you maybe $100.
Thank you. Honestly, you're giving priceless things for nothing. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you.
This script is like a mini version of Upanishad and Brahma Sutra, this combination.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Because people who have done the Brahma Sutra and the Upanishads, they will Venkatesh has done both. So he's trying to see what is this.
I can't see him. Venkatesh, where are you? I can't see him.
No, I would like to be Abhyakta.
Abhyakta. Please, no, we have to go from manifest to the unmanifest. No, you can't do that. You have to manifest yourself first. Yeah.
Manifest portion is done already. No, in the unmanifest portion.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
I'll just ask Shanmugam, can you show us the pictures? Can you just open up the... can you open up and show us the pictures of all of us?
No, I mean, we need to...
You can see this now, Shama, this is Venkatesh. You wanted to see Venkatesh?
Okay. Wonderful. No, I don't know why I like the unmanifest, but I like manifest too.
Okay, now you have manifested version.
Yeah, thank you.
Rohit, you wanted to have a question?
Yes. Shaiji, in the 5 koshas that you explained, one of the highest ones is the Vijnanamaya kosha, right?
Yes.
And that's the analogy that Swami Chinmayananda used about the pole vaulter. The pole
correct,
is to the intellect as well.
Yes.
So, and they also say that for true realization, it's just Shravanam, Mananam, and Nidithasanam. Does that mean, as opposed to say, all the meditation and all the other practices are mainly just to quieten the mind? My question is that, so at the end of it, if Shravanam is one of the primary mediums, does that mean that the whole concept of Vedanta is an intellectual conviction or an intellectual change of perspective, or after you analyze all of these using Vedantic principles?
It's 100% an intellectual journey. Vedanta is 100% intellectual journey, and it is ultimately the question asked is in Vichara Sagara itself. There's a question which is asked by the student. Ultimately, who is getting this knowledge? Is it the Jiva or is it the Brahman? Or who is getting, okay, if I am Jiva, so basically the intellect, the reflected consciousness with the mind is the Jiva. Now that Jiva is nothing else but the intellect. All our mind, ultimately the mind is the Jiva portion. See, throughout the day, we are nothing else but a bunch of thoughts. The first thought is I, the ego thought. That ego thought has got around it the circles of the 5 koshas. The I has got surrounding it 5 koshas. The first kosha surrounding the I is I am a karta and bhokta. I am the doer. I am the actor. So you whole day you keep on thinking in your own mind that I have to do this, I have to do that. It means you are a Vijnanamaya kosha. So Vijnanamaya kosha, and then what happens? That is what I said, the rational intellect. That is the intellect portion. So whole day it is just what we are doing is building up thoughts, acting, again building up thoughts, again acting, again building up thoughts. I go to the market, I go to cooking, I go and exercise, I go to office. Your thoughts are building up. You take action through your sense organs. But the fundamental is I thought, which is there in the intellect. Without the I thought, there is no, this is what in the next study of Saddarshanam, we are going to pinpoint this I, which is the ego I. So your question is, it is definitely the knowledge is gained by this intellect, by the jiva. And the knowledge is what? That I, the ego, don't have any existence at all without the pure consciousness. This is what the ego realizes. This is what Saddarshanam will tell you. How Ramana Maharshi teaches in Saddarshanam is, he says, find out what is the source of this ego I. And the moment you try to go in search of this ego I, it will disappear. It will disappear. Why it will disappear? Because the cause of this ego I is nothing but Maya. It is Maya means it is pure power. It is a Shakti. It is a Shakti of that pure consciousness. But this Shakti, which Shakti, Maya, mind, they are all synonymous. That Shakti is in all our bodies. In your body, it is the same Maya Shakti, which is the mind.
Mm.
I also have a Maya Shakti in me. You have, every one of us has got that small little power of that Maya Shakti. With that Maya Shakti, we live in this world. And we perform all our activities from birth to death. We identify, that means that pure the reflected consciousness identifies with the Maya Shakti, which is the mind, and conducts the whole life. You say, you get up in the morning, I want to do this action, that action, this action. It is this reflected consciousness realizes that it is just a reflection of the original consciousness. The original consciousness exists by itself, whereas the mind does not exist by itself. The mind is dependent. That is why it is called as Maya. We cannot analyze our life any more than this. That is what Vichara Sagara will tell us. Don't try to analyze the world, the mind too much. Try to find out what is behind this mind, in whose presence this mind is active. That is where our focus of attention should be. Not too much discuss about what the mind is and why this world is like this. Why am I facing all these problems? Why is all this is nothing but an appearance. It will come, it will go. It will come, it will go. Exactly like our dreams come in the night and they just pass away. What Vivekananda taught us is, wake up from this mind of this waking state. Realize that this mind is not permanent. Because it comes in the morning when we wake up and it goes away. Therefore, it is not permanent. Therefore, we call it, whatever is not permanent, we call it mithya. But every mithya should have a substratum. Like rope snake, the mithya is rope snake. They say that for rope snake, the substratum is the rope.
It's like moonlight.
Yes, like the moonlight, there is a sunlight.
So in the case of the...
So basically what they are saying is, what they say is that when we try to drop this mind of ours, we are in the lap of Atma.
In the case of the 5 koshas, is the inner kosha considered a substratum for the outer kosha?
Yes. That means for Annamaya, the content is Pranamaya. For the Pranamaya, the content is Manomaya. For Manomaya, the content of Manomaya is Vijnanamaya. That means without Vijnanamaya, there is no Manomaya. That means without that I notion, in the morning, we all get up in the morning. So without that I notion, the mind cannot function.
The same like 3 different sariras.
Then, Shekiji, then one more step onto that, without the Anandamaya.
Yeah, see, Anandamaya kosha is the content of the Vijnanamaya also.
But what does that mean when?
Yeah, that happiness which we experience in sleep state. That is called as Karana Shariram. It is also called as the Anandamaya. So there is an element of happiness which we experience either in the waking state or in the sleep state. There is some happiness. So that happiness state is higher than the Vijnanamaya, because that happiness state can exist by itself and without the Vijnanamaya. For example, suppose you are focusing on the mind, then you're not. That means suppose you're thinking about a job. Suppose you're thinking on a project, how to do this particular project. That means your mind is being you are identified with your mind. When you are identified with your mind, you are not aware of the body.
Oh, I see. Okay.
When you are identified with the mind, you're not aware that you're breathing. You're fully focused on your thoughts. At that time, you're not aware of the body, you're not aware of the breathing. Suppose you are doing yoga and you're aware of you're doing pranayama. At that time, you are focused on the breathing, you're not focused on the mind. You are focused on the breath. When you're focused on the breath while you're doing yoga, what happens is your Annamaya is gone. You're no longer concentrating on the body portion, the sthula body, the gross body. You're focusing on that is what is called as the content. When I say content means what? It is covering the previous kosha. So Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya kosha covers the Vijnanamaya kosha. That is why in sleep I don't know that I. Vijnanamaya kosha is that I. Intellect. So in the sleep state, the Anandamaya kosha is also a thought which covers the ego. And this Anandamaya kosha thought is being witnessed by Atma.
Then the earlier question of if this analysis were to be intellectual or by the intellect, by as we pass the Vijnanamaya, there is no intellect anymore.
No, you go up to the question answer session with your intellect, but suddenly your intellect will drop the question and then you will be with Atma. That is the pole vault jump. This happens. Because the moment the ignorance goes away of who you are, you know that you are already with the Atma. You get that immediate illumination that I am that pure self. That's all. This is what I was searching for.
It's interesting, Shekharji, that you have been talking about instruments today a lot, like microscope and focus and what. So, and now Rohit is talking about these koshas. So do we not have this flexibility of like zooming in and zooming out? So when we are on our transactional level, whether we are doing yoga or talking to somebody, the mind actually zooms out. And then, of course, when you're meditating, you're zooming in.
Yes, exactly. That's right. You see, you have that ability. All of us have the ability.
Yeah.
You see, we have suppose you're studying something very seriously, suppose you're reading a book.
Yeah.
At that time, your entire focus is on the mind. And your intellect is trying to understand what you're reading.
Unless you are in that tarka type of Shravanam, because anything that is being said, your mind is already first going to form an argument.
Yes. Yeah,
so
like you will find that, the last portion, that, the tarka drishti.
I thought that is a very good categorization of people.
So I had one last question following up on the earlier one. When you mentioned that the intellect is like the pole vault, then the Anandamaya is just a concept used for teaching purposes?
Anandamaya is the where we are the crossing is the ultimate crossing is the Anandamaya, which is the crossing of the pole vault.
Where you drop the intellect.
After the Anandamaya is the final pole vault. That means you are now getting into the other side. The other side is nothing but Atma.
Atma.
Consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, the part that I wasn't sure of was you already dropped the intellect, so now you're in pure ignorance.
Yes.
And then there is Atma.
Yes.
So how do you bridge those?
That ignorance goes only by the study of the scriptures.
But then in that state, if you will, there is no intellect anymore, right? Like in deep sleep state, you also say that you can never comprehend.
So what there you use is you use the scope not of your own personal intellect. You use the scope of the scripture.
Right.
The moment you have crossed your Vijnanamaya Kosha, then you bring the Shastra. Use the Shastra, you're still there. You see, you are still existing. You've dropped your intellect because the intellect cannot see, they cannot reach. Through your mouth, you cannot reach. Your words cannot. Through your normal Laukika words, you cannot reach. Now, you bring in the Shastra. What is the Shastra telling us? The Shastra is telling us beyond this Anandamaya Kosha, who is illuminating this Anandamaya Kosha? This is where you have to bring the light of consciousness. Now, light of consciousness is not revealed by anything else except the scriptures. So you bring in the light of the scriptures to illumine your own real nature. That is why they insist and say, Aham Brahma Asmi. You bring in a thought. And this is the Mahavakya portion. So the moment you're reaching in meditation, in your understanding itself, you go up to the level of intellect and say, I am no more the intellect. At that time, when you are dropping the intellect, you bring the Shastra.
Actually, at that level of conviction, when you are dropping the intellect, you already do identify yourself with the Atma, right? Like you're totally convinced.
No, the scriptural words have to come in. It is then that scriptural words will give you the final result.
I mean analysis of the
analysis is finished
of the Shastra itself.
Yes.
Like when you're contemplating that, and
yes, it is the purified mind which is now taken charge of the study. It is no longer your normal intellect which you are using. The Shastra, when it combines with your intellect, that becomes the ultimate thing to launch beyond to that pole vaulter crossing over, which I was saying, is you bring in the Shastric instrument at that level, use the Shastra and deliberately say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am that consciousness principle. Once you have learned to do this, it will come by practice. You see, it comes by a little bit more deeper knowledge. That deeper knowledge is what Vichara Sagara will give us.
Yana Prapti.
Yes. You see, slowly it comes because the final result is only very, very subtle.
It's a very, very gradual process.
It's very, very subtle, which the intellect, see, the intellect till this,
Sorry.
till you keep on asking, how can I be that pure consciousness? Till you keep on asking this, that means your ignorance is still there. It is the ignorance which is covering that higher nature. It's that wheeling portion. It will come in this presentation of mine. You will see it. It will come maybe next week or the following week. We go through the notes in the last portion. Yeah, if you see my notes, I don't know whether I've added that in my circulation, but I'm still writing it out. So I don't think I have sent to you all. So it comes, like I said, that this portion of what you are asking is explained in the advanced texts.
Is there a good textbook? Is there a good textbook on this subject?
On Vichara Sagara, yes, there is a textbook. I can send you the name of the textbook.
That'll be
There is
nice.
there is a lady who is in Delhi. She has got a doctorate, PhD degree.
God. That sounds formidable.
She has done a
Shvikaji, you are
PhD
saying
degree.
about that Akhanda Paramananda, someone who does he have any text or what you call some tape or something?
Who is
Video
this?
cassette? You said Akhanda Paramananda for the last 10 years he was teaching.
Oh,
Okay, okay.
Paramatmananda.
Yeah, Paramatmananda. Yes, he has got, but then it will take. There are 345 lectures of 1 hour each. How many lectures will you listen every day?
So he has a separate video
Yeah,
cassette.
there are lectures available.
It's
Yes.
very elaborate. Actually, it's done a very nice app. It's called Sastra Prakasha.
Yes,
It's an
Sastra
app which I have downloaded. But it is
you-
actually very lengthy.
Yeah,
One
very
verse
lengthy.
will be one
The
verse will
problem,
be.
yeah, that's a problem.
We have to focus actually. You have to know which specific chapter and just catch
No.
whatever,
Even
yeah.
if you see how this
It's
text
too.
is.
I mean, you have to have enormous patience, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very huge script actually.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that.
I can understand why he would take 10 years. I can understand
Yeah.
just by the way he gives his talks. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a lovely, very, very good, but it's just
But
very
it
laborious.
takes a tremendous amount of patience because by the time you study one talk, you have forgotten the talk in, you're going to, that's a problem. The human mind is not able to grasp everything at one shot.
Especially women's mind, is like it switches so fast.
No, it's all the same.
Honestly.
Yeah, Sajib, any questions from your side?
You will send the textbook link on the chat group. The textbook you were referring to by that lady, whatever her name is.
Yeah, no problem. I'll share it in the chat group. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll just take a picture of that book and you can just buy it. It's easily available.
Okay, thank you.
I had just one small question. We always say Sat is Purnatvam.
Yes.
So how can anything arise from Purnatvam?
Nothing can arise because that is what is ultimate. Because then, see, what it means is, that is why we say that the world is mithya. Because Satyam, Satyam is full by itself. Purnamada, Therefore, we say that this world which we are experiencing is mithya. Your question itself has an answer. Because this is Satyam, nothing can arise from it. Nothing originates from it. Therefore, they say creation is nothing but it is mithya, exactly like the rope snake.
But in our everyday thing, like we experience that we are the same yesterday and today, and we also experience we are different in terms of our body changes.
Yes, that's correct.
Sometimes we also think that we are the same.
Yes,
we are. There is this.
So there is a illusion. That illusion is nothing else but it is the body which is changing, the mind which is changing. What is not changing is the witness. So our entire exercise in spiritual study is to hold on to that permanent, non-changing art, and then drop the body, drop the mind, drop the thoughts, all as mithya. As mithya means it is there, it can be experienced, but it is not real.
But also, the world does not exist in all the times. No? If you take the sleep state, sleep state, it doesn't exist. It could be an independent of time, space, and object actually. So the time, so that is how it is. Like Upanishads and all, when we have read earlier.
Yeah.
So since it is not existing in all the three times, so that itself indicates it is mithya. It's an appearance.
So with your question, Sajeev, you have already reached almost 80% of the knowledge. So in the chapter 4 of the in the chapter 4, a stage comes when the student says, I understand the body is mithya. I understand the mind is mithya. But tell me now, how can I now take the world as mithya? How can I say that I am that Brahman? You know. So this question, particular question you are asking, it is answered by the knowledge only. It is answered by the knowledge. When the knowledge, this question answer sessions which happen in Vichara Sagara, during that time, your mind will get that pure answer, that answer. I cannot, even if I tell you, you may not understand because I'm speaking, it is a slow process. The mind has to go step by step in a discussion, and then it will straight away get revealed. This is how it happens.
And also in the nice karma siddhi, that Atma Anatma analysis also, it helps to say this.
These are all the stepping stones, but the real ultimate success is, unless until I am firmly convinced that the world is an appearance, it is not 100% real. But the problem is our mind is oriented to think that the body is real.
Yes. Universe is real.
Yeah, universe is real. So this question of Sajiv is basically coming from the Dehatma Vada. That means you are still identified with the body and mind.
That's the most difficult task actually. That conviction, to drop that conviction is the critical part.
Yes, and that is done by the analysis of ignorance. What is this ignorance? What is this Maya? This takes a long time in our spiritual study. The dropping of the mind takes a long time. It takes a long time. And it is an art we have to learn how to drop the mind. And it is taught by the scriptures. How to drop the mind is taught by the scriptures. I have to dwell a little bit more on that. That portion. This is very similar to the question which Chitra asked now. I know how to dwell, how to drop the mind. It is like going through the Mahavakya portions. Okay, we have had a very long session. It's 9 o'clock. So we'll catch up next week. We'll try and finish up within either next week or the following week, this session, this text, and then we'll go into the Saddarshanam.
Okay.
All right. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Thanks and good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.